Hi everybody, it's Martin from the Washboard Resonators. This video is a kind of like a little touchy subject in the resonator world. Sometimes people talk about new cones versus old cones, the different sound differences. I hear some people say that old cones always sound better, vice versa. Some people say you always improve an instrument with newer cones. Now what I'm doing here is I was literally, for my own sake, changing the cones in my 1930 Tricone, and it suddenly occurred to me I can just film this and then get a video out of it if we compare the two guitars with the different cones in. So I just literally decided to do this. I've not done my hair, I'm wearing a tatty old jumper. So I'll give you some background and then I'll show you the stringing and then we'll do the sound comparisons. And I'd like you all to choose which one you think sounds the best. What this guitar is, I bought this guitar about 5 or 6 weeks ago. It's a 1930 Tricone. I've named it Sylvia because my grandma was called Sylvia and she was born in 1930 and she left me some money when she passed away. So I've put that money into this guitar and it's a really nice thing to have. And what it is, the guitar was owned for about 7 years by a chap near London, and he had the guitar worked on by a guy called Dave King, who is an expert. And Dave must have put these new NRP cones in. And I like the NRP cones, the National Resophonic, the newer company, separate company, but a newer company. I love their products. The old cones were in the case. And various friends of mine, Matt Makin, Michael Messer, both said you should try the old cones, just to try them. So my guitar developed a rattle, so I decided to take it apart, and while I was doing that, I might as well just swap both cones out, record it for my own sake, and see if I can, can I hear a difference? So that's the background of what we're doing here. Let's now get into a quick sort of changeover and some sound clips. Okay, so I'm just taking the guitar apart. Here comes the bridge. You see that these have the kind of machine to have a little pin on there. So these are the NRP cones, the National Resophonic newer cones. These are the original 1930 cones now. Now, first of all, do you see any differences? They look different. They're slightly different kind of sort of state. The edges on these are kind of, I think these were still made with tin snips, the way they snip around. Could be wrong. These look quite nice and smooth. The shape looks pretty good. One of them, this guitar must have taken a bash at some point. You'll see that this cone is needed some reshaping. Michael helped me with that the other day at his house with a special tool that he's got. So what I think we're going to do here is I'm going to restring it with the NRPs. I was trying to sort out the rattle, sometimes just taking them apart and then putting them back together sorts the rattle out. So while I'm sorting this guitar, now is a good time to say, if you find these videos useful, then help me and Jack in return. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, go to the description, follow the links. The best thing you can do is to join our mailing list. Thank you very much. So I'm just doing a quick clean of any kind of surfaces. Didn't expect that. That's interesting. Anyway, let's see what happens. Okay, I have covered up the screen so you can't see which cones are which. Before I do this comparison, I will warn you that for some reason, I don't know really why, but this morning at about 9 AM, a fun fair started up down the street from me, and all day it's been thumping music and just the sound of screaming. So don't think that you're hearing the inside of my head. It's actually the fun fair that's sort of down the street. In many ways, this is quite authentic. We need our resonator to be louder than a fun fair, which is probably how a lot of these guitars are used. So what I'm going to do is say it's guitar A, guitar B. We are going to hear it with fingers and a thumb pick so you can hear the difference. Here we go. So here is guitar A with fingers. Let's do the same now with the thumb pick. 12th fret. Okay, here is guitar B with fingers. Thumb pick now. Okay, then we are back in the room. What I will do is just share a few little thoughts while you're popping the comments down there, guitar A or guitar B. I will reveal very shortly. Let me grab the guitar. So, I just shared a little thing about what I was doing to Instagram, and I had a couple of phone calls that have lasted hours. So it's considerably darker. Yeah, basically, here's the guitar. And I don't think there are any hard and fast rules. I think that, you know, guitars can change and be improved. You've got an old guitar and the cones happen to not be working, or they've collapsed, or whatever it is. You put some new cones in, your guitar's going to be an improvement. I've spoken to a lot of people over the years that have always told me that a good old cone sounds better than any new cone. Now, today really was the first chance I've ever actually got a chance to try that with my own ears, because I just happened to have some original cones in the case and the new cones. Now, I'm not sure why this guitar was changed. What I will reveal now is that guitar A was the modern NRP cones and guitar B was the old vintage cones. Now I can hear a difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these old cones in the guitar. Now you see, I'm just going to leave the cover plate off now for another 2 or 3 days, just in case anything develops, any buzzers. Generally, the consensus is when the guitar settles, it will settle in a bit more and it will broaden in terms of sound. Obviously the cover plate will help the sound apparently as well, especially in a tricone. It will force more of the sound where you want it. But what I kind of heard from these cones is fatness. You know, the guitar seems to get a little bit fatter and it lost some of its top end. Now conversely, when I've compared NRP guitars, National Resophonic new guitars, to the old different company original National guitars, I did a comparison video and the new guitar won by quite a long way. People preferred the sound of it. The National Resophonics generally are a bit fatter sounding, but with a little less top end as a basic kind of rule. And people preferred the sound of that. So interestingly, I've put these old cones in, and the guitar has fanned a little bit, but it's maybe lost some mid and treble, but which we'll probably never know now why these cones were changed. Is it that they just didn't sound right? Is it that they were buzzing? I don't have any buzzers. I've tried to make it buzz. I can't make it buzz. The cones themselves, when I lifted them out and put them flat, they didn't even lay flat on a flat surface, so I was expecting there to be loads of buzzers, but the string tension is pushed down and everything seems to be seated. I've gone around, I can't get any rattles. If you tap around the edge, sometimes you can hear a rattle. Everything's fine. So I'm going to sit with this guitar now for maybe a week. before I decide anything else. Maybe 2 or 3 days, just in case I need to go back in here for anything. Then I'll put the cover plate back on. So I'll give it about a week in total, and then decide whether I want to keep these cones in. But I hope that's of interest to people that are into these kind of guitars. The idea that there is a difference, and it isn't necessarily what you expect. And I think what it kind of just goes to show with these guitars is, I mean, these things are weird by most guitar, you know, if you're into guitar culture, Strats are easy to understand, Martin acoustics are easy to understand. These things are weird. They're so idiosyncratic, they develop rattles, they're mechanically amplified guitars, so there's literally an element of, if this thing vibrates right, will it work right, are the angles right? These all make much more of a difference. And I think the learning curve, and I think the lesson to come away with here, for me, today, has been that what people might claim and say on forums and Facebook pages isn't necessarily always correct. And really, guitars, these guitars, the good guitars, the great guitars of these, they really are the sum of their parts. You know, you could have a guitar, the same neck, same body, we've changed the cones. One's more middly and clear, one's fatter and a bit sweeter. And you know what, somebody else might prefer the other one. I think I prefer the sound of this. So really, these guitars are the sum of their parts. And maybe what you have to sort of accept sometimes with these things, whether you get a new one or an old one, is there is an element of experimentation. Perhaps you do need to get the guitar seen to by someone, get the bridge slots cut right so it gives out everything, neck sets. Maybe a guitar which doesn't seem so loud, an old one, might benefit from a new cone. Maybe a Chinese one, a cheap new Chinese guitar might benefit from an American cone, or a saddle made out of different material. These are all little things that you can do to change the sound and make the guitar better. And so yeah, I have spoke to so many people that have generally said older cones, a good old cone sounds better than a new cone. Now it is horses for courses, it's apples and oranges. I do prefer these old cones, and I had to literally spend most of the day drinking coffee, listening to podcasts, restringing, trying, filming this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this guitar down, I'm going to stop filming, I'm going to go and meet my friend for a beer, and stop talking rubbish. Bye-bye for now. Girl, you love is dead. You know I packed up my suitcase, took off down the road. When I got there, you was in the cooling bowl. I packed up my suitcase. Okay, so about 4 or 5 days has gone by, and I've been playing the guitar. Just at my dad's house now, and yeah, I've sort of found myself in two minds really. I have loved the bassiness and the warmth that's come from these older cones. I do feel that, you know, the more I've sat with the guitar, and the guitar has new strings on it, I feel like perhaps I am missing some of the sparkle and the sort of the more open top end. So maybe that's why these cones came out. Maybe they are warmer, but maybe they were just starting to lack a little bit of life. Maybe that's what it is. I had a Facebook conversation yesterday with Mike Lewis, who is there's a handful of people in the world who are really the experts on these, and he's one of them. And he was talking about how, good old cones have this magic, but they can sound a bit dead and they can need some life. And he was talking about the different ways that cones are made. And he basically said, you've got these 0.15, 0.20, 0.25 thickness of aluminiums. And he said, the cones sound very different depending if you use a hard steel rod to form them when the piece of aluminium is spinning on the lathe, or whether you use like a steel former with a little wheel at the end that you run along the former so that the aluminium shapes to the shape of the cone. He was saying that he makes them with a hard steel rod, like he believes that they were done back in the day, and that's how he does his cones. And a lot of people said to me, his cones sound the best. So maybe what I might do, this might end up being like another part to this video. I'm wondering, it's not going to be any time now. It's just getting into October as I film this. Perhaps after Christmas, perhaps in the spring, I'll take this guitar to France and let Mike have a look at it, and maybe try swapping these two cones out. Maybe try some of his cones in, see what we can do. It'd be nice to get the bassiness of these cones that have just gone in, the older cones, but maybe get a little bit of the sparkle back, perhaps. So there we go. So it's very, very, very nerdy, very geeky, very nerdy, very geeky. So I have loved playing this guitar though. I mean, I just keep playing this guitar. I'm so in love, like literally, I'm so in love with this guitar. So like last time, when I was filming this video, I said I'm going to go for a beer with my friends, and I did. I ended up meeting a bunch of buddies. Now I'm going to make a flask of coffee. I'm going to go for a hike over the moors with another friend. So I'm off. Goodbye, everybody.